What is the worst scenario for the 2024 US election? All I know is that I have a bad feeling about this. We continue to elect people I wouldn't hire to run a fucking convenience store. This entire post is nightmare fuel. The earth instantly becomes completely stationary. I win somehow. Biden dies weeks before the election. Trump wins but has a heart attack on live television during his acceptance speech. And dies. Trump's VP is Kanye West. What caused you to end your relationship due to something that disgusted you about your partner? When he came home while I was on bed rest after emergency surgery for a miscarriage, taking care of our 2-year-old son, and asked me, why aren't the fucking dishes done? The dishes were done in the morning. They were his dad and his GFS dishes from drunk brunch on their days off. He took my car out while drunk. He was going to play poker. And crashed it. He then proceeded to tell the cops that I was the one driving and fled the scene. Mind you, our daughter was 4 months old at the time. So he was claiming I crashed and ran back with my infant daughter 2 miles back home. Luckily the cops saw right through that bullshit. He also decided to snatch my daughter at the airport and flee. She was then 5 years old. He had no involvement in her life at that point and was a complete stranger to her. Yes, I got her back after the cops tracked him down 6 hours away from the airport. He was reportedly intoxicated and she had no car seat, had thrown up on herself in the car. My daughter and I are now happy, healthy, and thriving thanks to a restraining order in place. Be careful who you sleep with, folks. There's all kinds of crazy out there. He tried to end a disagreement about housework by suggesting a trip to the mall to shop for an engagement ring, something he mentioned at no other time before that moment. He tried to appease me with shopping. He and I only argued about housework. And he'd do anything to avoid even discussing it. I just knew at that moment that I would have to do everything. And he would just try to manipulate me to avoid any real discussion. For the rest of my life. No thanks. Threatening to kill my 2 little sisters during an argument. This was on a first date, mind you. The date was going badly and the guy was argumentative. But then he said something that was truly awful. For context, we'd been talking about the show Dahmer, and he really didn't care that the victims' families were bothered by the way the show creators went about making the show. At this point I was trying to get to a place in the conversation where I could peacefully end the date. We can at least agree that the actual Jeffrey Dahmer was bad though. Right? Him. Well, me. The one who tortured and killed and ate people. Him. You never really know what someone is going through. Bro. What? We had only just made it official, but he told me that he hit his last girlfriend and that was it for me. What are some clear signs that someone is failing at life? How far they have to look back to brag. If a 40-year-old talks about his high school life, that's a pretty good indicator. They're cold to the touch and have no pulse. Looking through this thread and seeing if any answers apply to you. Always complaining and never taking responsibility. They characterize everything as happening to them and don't take any initiative to change their situation. It's all relative. You can view someone as successful, but they are a failure in their own eyes. And one person can look to be a failure but are proud of what they've done and are happy. Their Facebook profile lists, School of Hard Knocks, for education. What's the greatest solved mystery? I feel like the finding of the Rosetta Stone has to be up there. Suddenly, after thousands of years, you can start to translate Egyptian hieroglyphs? That was a long wait with an amazing payoff. Whether the Titanic sank in one piece or not, many discounted those survivors who said they saw her split in two because they had a hard time believing such a mighty ship could rip apart like that. It wasn't until Ballard and his crew found her that the truth was revealed. I am gonna go in a different direction here. I will say finding out what actually causes sickness. For much of humanity, this argument had fierce advocates of miasma to why did you make God give you leprosy, the Black Plague, and a pope surrounding himself with candles which attracted fleas and allowed his survival as the greatest. Doesn't matter, it worked ever. The city of Troy was thought to be most likely mythical from the time that Homer wrote the Iliad c. 750 BCE until the site was excavated in 1871. Roughly 2,600 years later. Something a little close to home. My friend Jacob Wetterling was 11 when he was kidnapped in 1989. They finally found his body in 2016 and solved the crime. And #X200B. https en.wikipedia.org/wiki/murder_of_Jacob_Wetterling. https en.wikipedia.org/wiki/murder_of_Jacob_Wetterling. Until the 1990, we weren't entirely sure how the dinosaurs became extinct. https blogs.u.edu/shu/2023/08/and-asteroid-killed-the-dinosaurs/. What is the most universally liked food? Potato. I'd say rice. Subscribe, my brothers.